And I like to emphasize when it comes to develop your own life or finding your path in life, it's always about doing a next step that's you didn't live before. It's always the same game. Doing this for some years and for some decades. And so I hope for that most of the people get some experience how to handle these steps out of comfort zone, and that it might be also full of fun and enjoyable and a nice thing to do and not only stressful. But in order to feel this, you need to understand your own fears and there is no need to be afraid of looking into the things that are your essence, because your essence is working for you and not against you. And if you're not content with what you're doing at the moment, if that's not what you're wishing for, if you have bad feelings all of the time, then this is just the calling to have a look into and to see whether it's just some minor adjustment that needed to be done.
Hi, and welcome everyone to today's podcast episode of Essence. Today I have the great honor to have with me Julia Peters. Julia is a leadership coach, trainer, and consultant based in Germany, with over 30 years of professional experience and more than a decade as an independent coach. She supports leaders and changemakers in navigating complex transitions and shaping their unique leadership path with purpose and courage. Her approach combines systemic coaching, hypnotherapy, and real-life leadership insight, always rooted in clarity and presence. In today's episode, we'll be speaking about what purpose coaching really is and how she guides people in discovering their inner calling. We also speak about the relationship between fear and living your essence, and she will provide practical tools for connecting with your purpose. So I'm really grateful that you're here, Julia. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, John. I'm quite excited and ready for our little talk here.
Yay, and as every episode that we already did, I also asked Julia, when was the last time that she felt connected to her essence? And this is the starting point that we'll be having for today's conversation. I haven't heard it yet, so I'm really, really excited. Julia, what would you say? When was the last time that you felt connected to your essence?
Oh, yeah. As a purpose coach, I can tell that honestly, I'm connected with it every day. So working with people on their purpose is always working on the stuff which comes along with essence. But this might be not too interesting if I'm just starting off with business stuff. And honestly, last week was and it's maybe also a bit harder stuff, but there was a special moment because we were visiting my father-in-law, who's seriously ill. So he has a cancer and is probably going to die before the end of the year. So, and being there, being together with somebody who is really approaching his death and looking backwards on his life, like, did I do what I wanted to do? Was that the life I wanted to have? I mean, when death is approaching with an illness, it's always too early, and there's a process. He has to really come along with that he's confronted with his fears. And as a family, we've been sitting together, and I'm still discussing with my husband during the last days, always, is this the life we wanted to have? We really want to look back to one day, and are there some things we need to change? Where's an adjustment needed? And I think if you're asking yourself this kind of questions, then you're quite close to, am I living really my true essence? Is this what I'm here for? And yeah, even if it's a very serious topic right now, and to start off with something like that in a podcast episode, I think at the end of the day, it's always worth to think from the end and to have this insight and like this come a little bit closer to what is your essence. So here you have it. You asked for it.
Thank you, Julia, for sharing this. I feel deeply touched by listening to you and by just imagining how this situation might feel for you and for your family. And as you were saying, that it's very confronting with one's fears. I can imagine his fears in this case, but also everyone else involved and close to him.
Yeah.
And Yeah, that it really brings up these great questions.
Yeah. So one thing is really that these questions are coming up, and the second thing is, as somebody who is not in his position but who is at the side, the task is a bit different, and also there you might be confronted with the essence. In my situation, I'm always working with people who go through crisis or went through crisis. So my personal lessons is also to strengthen people, to encourage them, even to go for another step who will lead to a different life. And so there was a second level wherein I was also in contact with my essence, yeah, to offer this kind of strength with the inner know-how that somehow we all know how this works. So yeah, um, yeah. My goodness, we're starting quite heavily, huh?
Yeah, and well, if we talk about living our essence,
Yeah,
I also totally invite and appreciate just straight going for it, right?
yes,
And in
you're right.
your role as a purpose coach, I can imagine that you have a lot of very very profound conversations as well
Yeah,
with other people. Um, and if someone is now trying to imagine, okay, what does purpose coaching look or feel like? What does Julia do?
hmm,
How would you describe that for people who haven't experienced it yet or haven't heard about that yet?
yeah. Well, I think, or I could describe the process in maybe two phases. So the first part of it is always there's always a preparation phase, something like 6 to 10 weeks, where people get upfront some preparational work from me, like questions they can reflect on, or little videos then they can have a look at. So there's a certain time frame where they just prepare. And the idea is to really reflect about everything what you know about yourself. So it's about getting to know yourself a little bit deeper. Normally, we don't take the time every day to really think about, okay, what are my strengths? What are my values? What did I do as a child? What do I like? What maybe is not in my current ambition? And this preparational time is very important, because the first part of every um, purpose coaching is really to bring all this and a certain process together, so that at a certain point in the process, you have all these things that you know about yourself on one big piece of paper. And seeing this in combination with trance, so I'm a hypnosis expert as well, um, will open up sort of deeper access to what are you. So the idea behind that is not only to do the cognitive work, but really to bring you in contact with your feelings, your really deep, deep understanding of yourself. And there's a lot of work that needs to be done with the subconscious areas, so unconscious areas. At the end of the day, in coaching, we always think that, or we assume that people basically know what they need and know what is best for them, and that there is a certain, let's say, instance or higher self, or how do you call it, in you that knows what's best for you and what's your path. And it's just not in your consciousness. So, and this first part is always about getting to understand yourself a bit better, especially feeling the whole stuff. And at the end of the process, if people wish to, we always find a final phrase. There's a certain technique coming from Zurich in Switzerland, where you can bring this into words so that you have one final phrase, which is telling you a lot about yourself. It's deeply felt by the clients, and it's nothing for public. So there will be words in there, or colors or expressions, that only give you the full understanding of what is your purpose. And purpose always means that you do something that the world, other people, society will have something or experience something. So the second part is always not about you; it's about the world, so to say. And at that point, I'm following also the idea of Simon Sinek when when he created the Golden Circle. He also created a certain way how to do this phrase. So, And once this point, this very deep point is reached, and we're following also the U process there, created by Otto Scharmer, normally the brain starts to work like crazy. And I've seen people like starting to cry, starting to be also maybe afraid of what they feel, how important they are. These are experiences that you never had before. I mean, really getting in contact with your essence, your true meaning, to be part of something that's bigger than you are. And a normal purpose also is something so big that at the beginning people think, okay, and me, my little being here, how can I do this? Yeah. So this is really challenging. Some of them get really afraid of it. And that's a moment where we just stop the process for a moment. And the idea is that the rest of the day they do, if possible, which is sometimes quite challenging, not continue to think about the whole thing, but just do something physical, like walking, like swimming, like going to a sauna, or whatever you like, to relax, to have a little bit of movement. I mean, we know that a very regular movement, right side, left side, is really also coordinating and harmonizing the brain half. So, and try to sleep. Some of my clients sleep very deep, have very wild dreams. Others don't sleep the whole night because it's so exciting to have all this and aware now, to become aware of this. And the second part, but this is the other day, is really about, okay, what do I do with this know-how now? Because the one part to understand or see what's the task, that's interesting, but if you don't use this energy and if you're not taking up, then it's, I'd say, in vain, because after some days this experience is like gone with the wind. So the idea of the second half of the purpose coaching is really that you try to find a very easy way, the easiest way possible, with working like with prototyping, design thinking, so that you create for yourself an MVP. So yeah, so something with which you can start, if possible, within the next 48 hours. And I got to learn this method from a network of trainers. So I would like to mention this, because that's the origin of what I'm doing right now. It's the People Network, with based here in Germany. But over the years, and I learned this whole thing, it's like 6-7 years ago. I developed my own method combined with hypnosis and other stuff, so that really people can go out of the whole process and start to live their purpose the very next moment. And also there, after a certain period of time, and this is included in the whole package where I'm in with my clients, it's clear that doubts are coming up. Am I allowed to do this? Is it okay that I do this? Is the world really waiting for me? I mean, all this stuff we can invent in order to prevent us from doing what we're here for. Yeah, this is coming up. And that's a very important part, because this purpose work can heal the past, because at a certain point you can see that everything you experienced in the past might have been the right way to arrive where you are. And with purpose work, you can transform even trauma into healing, not only for yourself, but for the world. And by doing so, that's within the second part, you are coming across all your ideas, blockings, whatever there is in your mind, that might you prevent from really living what you're meant for, as well. So following your purpose work for a year or so will make a big difference. And I highly love to be with the people during this period of time, to really be at their side, to be there, especially when they're afraid of the next step. I don't know this wordings from Nelson Mandela, I think it was, completely, but the biggest fear of people is the fear of their own light, and not of the world. So this is true. This is really true. I see that regularly in my purpose coachings. So it's a very intense process. And when it comes to who is doing this, who is asking for this, I can tell you that it's like from all ages. My youngest clients are like in their 20s and the eldest like in their 60s. I mean, the big difference is the earlier you do it, and 3/4 of all people are confronted with their meaning of life somewhere in their during their life. The earlier you do it, the bigger the chances that you really have the life you wish for. Yeah, and later on, it's combined with lots of regrets, like, okay, no, you have to accept you didn't do it. You have to accept that like 20 years you went in the wrong way. Yeah. But also might be part of the journey. Is that answering your question, John?
Yes, like while I'm listening to you, I'm
Yeah.
getting really excited about this, and I'm thinking, wow, I would love that this would be part of our society, that
Yeah.
everyone in in the school system or at some point in their lives just has access to asking them this kind of questions and being held in a container by people that really dedicate themselves and have their own purpose connected to, I want to support people to connect deeper with their essence. So
Yeah.
I really enjoy listening to you. And I was asking myself now, um, as it's not part of our education system and
Yeah.
society to grow up and connect people with their purpose, how did you stumble upon this, that you wanted to live this, that you felt, yes,
Wow.
this is a role that really lights me up?
Now this is the question I could start to tell you my whole life story. And I think that maybe would take a little bit too long. I think I was always interested in development. And if you look into my deeper motivation, it's really I'm encouraging and strengthening and empowering people to really to go into transitions and to go into development. And this is my own path as well. So development might be at the beginning always a little bit challenging. Yeah. And my personal way was like that. I didn't have the career, a clear, linear career. Like, I mean, I was born in the 70s. So at that time, doing a career was like you choose your job, your profession, and then you follow that. And then you excel in that. You go up the career ladder and you end up in the top management or something like that. No, I changed twice my profession, so to say, in order to arrive at the end in this coaching area. And also there, I mean, you know how large our field, our professional field is. Yeah, I started with like trainings on personal self-management or time management stuff. And so the purpose coaching at the end was a logical development, like having overcome my own crisis experience, having fulfilled or succeeded or done lots of therapy hours as well, worked on my own trauma fields and so. And I always knew, and I can't tell you why, that there was something deeper waiting for me. Like there, sometimes I had, it sounds a bit strange, yeah, but sometimes there was like a little voice in my head whispering, yeah, you have there's something for you to do. You need to continue. And this push of being, sometimes it's really a feeling like it's not me. It's like there is something coming through me who wants to express and who wants to more show me the way or draw me forward or so. So it's in a way at the end, having discovered, found out what I would like to do, it was also like surrendering to the task, because I know that's not easy. I mean, doing the work means you are very close with the people during the process. You need to create a immensely safe space. You get into their field. You feel their feelings. It's not about it's really you need to open yourself up completely in order to be able to work like a mirror, to really create all this surrounding. And then after the process, there is a moment you have to let them go. And it's just like you have to let them go. And there are people that I've seen once very intensively during 2 days, and I never heard of them again. And this is like opening up, getting into this very intense connection, and then letting go, not knowing will I see them again, or what will happen to that task, or what's future holding open for them. This needs a certain readiness, I'd say, a certain readiness, and also, um, yeah, strength to hold this process. And I'd like to add something. I'm a mother of two boys, so they are 15 and almost 18. And there I can tell you the process of this whole development is even stronger because, I mean, you are writing for children, yeah. So children, there is a very intense period where you're very close with them and you love them very much and you would do everything for them. But with the almost 18-year-old, it's time to let go. And I don't know what the future will hold for him. So, and this trusting life and trusting further development after having done something is also to surrendering to this process of development, but it's also about not taking yourself too important. And what I've seen now is that sometimes I'm crossing the path of people like years before they really understand what we were doing. And I already got some emails exactly covering this. Like, Julia, we had our work like 5 years ago, and now only now I understand what we did already at that point. And now I'm at the point that I really can fully develop. So it's like the kicking off a certain way, and then letting go and trusting that life will do its job, evolution will work. So yeah, it's quite spiritual work at a certain point. Yeah.
How would you describe the relationship between living your essence or supporting other people in living their essence and letting go?
That's an interesting question. I think it's part of the whole process to let go. If not, the cycle can't be closed. So it's part of the essence that I accept what I need to do or what I'm asked to do, and then like withdraw and let it go, let it flow. So it's in a way it's very yin yang, you know, this Asian philosophy. It's like the yang, you go in, you give the impulse, you're doing the kick-off work, and which is very male, so boom. And then it's okay, and now this is your part. I'm out of it. It's your business right now. You have to go. I trust you will do it. And if you need help, I'm here. I mean, I have this like at the entrance of my coaching room, there is a little sign which indicates here's your harbor, and that's an image, a metaphor I like very much. So offering a harbor for the sailors, yeah, the life sailors or adventurers of life or whatever. But this harbor is fixed. It's not working with or going along with them. It's just waiting there and offering to be there. And so it's very close connected, the two. Yeah.
Thank you. It was also still reverberating in my mind. There were two things that you shared. One was this quote that something like people's greatest fear is the fear of feeling their light.
Yeah.
And the other one was in the very beginning, where you also shared that in the situation that you find yourself right now, that there's this something coming to an end, and also fear and being then, which then reconnects somehow with essence and these big questions. How would you describe then here the role of fear in living one's essence?
Yeah. I mean, we have feelings in order to get a certain type of energy, in order to do something. And fear, from my point of view, is one of the big feelings who is always or mostly seen from its negative side. Yeah, we are afraid of things in order to protect ourselves. We are afraid of the dark because we don't know whether there is a wild animal that might try to kill us or so. This is instinctive life. Yeah, so, and this kind of fear is preventing us from doing something. But I think, and this is something where I'm following very, very closely the definitions that Vivian Dittmer gave in her work. There is also this kind of fear, and maybe you remember that the first time in the swimming pool when you're jumping from the 3-meter tower or so, yeah, there's this kind of fear where you are standing at the edge of this tower And you look down and you said, no, okay, I'm afraid of doing this, but you want to do it because it's also energizing. It's giving wings. It's like it's quite a vibrant energy. And I think somewhere in between there is what this kind of fear energy is for. So it's really signalizing that you're coming to an area, or let's say a limit of where you weren't before, and every step beyond is new life. It's new. It's a new path. It's an area, a ground you don't know. And because you don't know it, you don't have the recipes, you don't have the fixed idea how you can do it. So there is security who is lacking, who's missing, and you don't have the idea of how can I handle this. And this exactly is energizing our brain in order to find new ways. And that's the energy we need. So I think at a certain part, fear, and I mean, fear is the strongest word. Yeah, you also can say respect or however you want to call it, is important for this process in order to understand where is the end of your world, how you know it up to now, and what's the next step. And this sensibilizes you for what's needed, where do you need to take care for, what do you need to take into account, whom you might need to help you. So whatever, you can have as a preparation in order to take the courage and make the next step. So it's all about fear, but having the courage, and courage comes along with trust. And I mean, the more trust you have, the less courage you need. It's a little bit like a game. It's like, in order to take the final step. And I like to emphasize when it comes to develop your own life or finding your path in life, it's always about doing a next step that's you didn't live before. It's always the same game. And doing this for some years and for some decades. And so I hope for that most of the people get some experience how to handle these steps out of comfort zone, and that it might be also full of fun and enjoyable and a nice thing to do and not only stressful. So, but in order to feel this, you need to understand your own fears and your needs. And so then we're again at self-awareness, at a point of self-awareness, self-care, all this stuff to understand yourself better, do this kind of inner work you're also standing up for. So that's my approach to fear. So fear is good, it's energizing, and it will tell you something about yourself.
I really enjoyed listening to that and painting this picture of what is actually fear and how can we understand it better. And I just want to double down basically on what you were sharing. This either fear could lead us to just hiding in our corner and not making any step at all because everything outside of our known room is unknown and potentially threatening because we don't know it. So we could either
and
decide
maybe it's
to
good to not do it.
Yeah,
I
maybe
mean,
it's really good.
Can be the right decision.
Yeah, and this like developing this capacity and playing around with in the context where it's safe enough to play as well. We don't want to jump into our panic zone, but just playing around with, is this fear actually telling me I actually really want this? I actually really want to step into my light, as you call it. I really want to step into my essence. I really want to share myself with the world. Maybe I'm a little bit afraid of being maybe judged or not being part of a certain group or whatever it is, given the context and the conditioning, how we grew up in our society. But actually, I really want to live myself, my essence, and show my fullest self to the world. And that requires courage, as you said. So I hear this practice of courage.
Yeah. I would like to point out at this moment something, because we're talking so excited about going your path and doing everything like you need it. The experience from the last years is showing me that roundabout, I'd say 80% of the people who are doing purpose coaching with me, they find out that they're currently on a good way. So most of the people who are doubting, am I on the good way or not, find out during the process, no, it's okay, it just needs some adjustments. And afterwards they go out like being strengthened with more of understanding for themselves for some decisions. So this is really comforting, it's strengthening, and it's giving the idea of really, do some adjustments only. And I'd say only very, very few of my clients really did this Roman kind like of I change my life completely. I leave my family behind. I quit my job. I'm buying a boat and sailing around the world. This is just a very little percentage. So what I would like to say with that is that it's good to do that work, and nobody needs to be afraid of doing it, because what you're finding out is never to your disadvantage. There is no need to be afraid of looking into the things that are your essence. Yeah, because your essence is working for you and not against you. And if you're not if you're not content with what you're doing at the moment, if that's not what you're wishing for, if you have bad feelings all of the time, then this is just the calling to have a look into, and to see whether it's just some minor adjustment that needed to be done. So that's what I think is important to point out at that moment in our talk.
Thank you for sharing this perspective. I find this very, very valuable, because I can imagine that in some people's minds, it's okay, if I want to live my essence, I need to change everything and start
No,
from scratch zero again. So it's
no,
very
no,
good
no.
to hear that. And at the same time, to have the invitation of, okay, I actually want to look at my life and myself.
Yeah,
And I remember that before we started our recording, we were
yeah,
also talking about paths,
yeah.
finding one's path, and supporting other people in finding their path. So, who supports whom, and how do we find our path?
Wow, yeah. I mean, the classic understanding or the classic answer to your question would be, yeah, there are some people who are looking for their path, like clients we get in our coachings. And then there are the coaches who offer consulting, advice, and they help you to find your path. So at the end of the day, I've changed this understanding over the last few years, because sometimes, or quite often, the work we're having as coaches with our clients, I'm not quite sure who's helping whom. And sometimes things I experience, or stuff I experience in the coachings, are giving me also something back. So at the end of the day, I think it's really like a collective movement. So it's really about me finding my own way. You have to find your way. We can help each other. We can walk a little bit side by side. We can look to each other. Maybe copy some things we like, and then we're getting apart, and maybe find somebody new to go with us. And if you're lucky enough, you find some deep soul connections, like a long time partner. So for example, my husband and I, we met each other in 96 already, so we're close to 30 years together, more than 20 years married. This is somebody where I'd say this is a karmic connection. So and if you're lucky enough, you have this, but this is maybe not the case for everybody. So it's about you and your ambition to develop yourself, and just have the eyes open. And I think sometimes you need help, and sometimes you can offer help. And it's this kind of collective cooperation, collective movement that brings us forward, that maybe levels up the whole world, hopefully one day. I mean, looking around, looking into the news, this is exactly what we need right now. Huh? Coming to the next level of consciousness, to a different understanding of what is community, what is earth, what is, what could be happiness if we focus on.
I find it beautiful to see also this change of perspective, that it's not one person having a question and the other one giving an answer, and it's just some other guides and some other people being guided, but that it's a collective movement with roles shifting,
Yeah,
and that's totally normal.
yeah,
And I was wondering as well, from if we now move kind of from the one-on-one context more like to the collective context,
yes,
how do you see um, like living one's essence, living one's purpose, supporting others in finding their path and your own path, like on a more collective level? Which thoughts come up for you?
I think we're all on a way, and it's too big to that I could describe where could this lead us to. What I can feel is that there is this kind of, whatever you call it, intelligence, spirit, energy, whatever you call it. I think development is going on, and from a biological perspective, also, I need to say my parents were both biologists, so I have a deep imprint when it comes to science with reference to that. So evolution is not stoppable. There is a constant development. If you see around you, if you look around, it's in nature. It's we ourselves. We grow older. We have maybe a next generation coming up. States grow and implode, and it's like this cycling. There's sort of cycle mechanism, which leads to growth and leads to development, and there is an intelligence in it. My mother used to say. She said, the more she's into biology and science, the more she's starting to believe in God, because she said, have you ever have the look at a little flower in every detail and how beautiful this is? And there is a beauty in it, even if there are horrible stories out there, even if there is pain, and so there is a beauty of this development who is not stoppable, who is trying to get to a next level, whatever this is. And we know both that every next level creates the next problem. So evolution is never finished. Yeah. So we're not the crown of evolution. The mankind is not the crown of it. We're just part of it. We're part of the world. We're part of the process. And there is a common path in it, and full of energy. And do I understand this? No. I think that's the task of everybody, for everybody of us, that we need to see our part and to bring in what we can bring in. So when it comes to circle of influence, so what's my circle of influence? What's my part in the whole thing? And do the best we can. And the more people do this and try to get closer to the essence, and I'm back to your word, the more the whole system will come closer to it and will develop maybe a bit smarter, a bit less painful, a bit more in harmony and peace, and not always with wars. So I think that's the active part that we can take everybody from us. Yeah. Big thoughts coming up right now. It's interesting listening to me when I'm talking right now. It's really interesting. Classical extrovert.
I also find it interesting. I need to speak to hear myself talk. That's at least true for me. So I enjoy the sensation as well. And you mentioned the circle of influence, and I was wondering, maybe not everyone who is listening knows what that means. And I can imagine that it might be valuable, especially in times where there's so much news going on of all the big problems in the world, and people might find themselves overwhelmed. So maybe you want to elaborate a little bit what that actually means and how people can really apply this in their day-to-day life.
Yeah. We need maybe to supply the name of the founder afterwards, because I'm just lacking the name. But the idea behind this is that, or if you know it, you maybe can add it at the moment.
So don't know.
We added in the show notes. So the model behind, or the idea behind the model, is that we are all somewhere in the world, and there is a part where we have an influence on the world around us, and there's a part of where we don't have an influence. And the idea is that, and that's a very, very fascinating thing, our brain is filtering always what we're doing. And the brain is filtering with reference to what is interesting for you. Where do you look more into? So if I'm always looking into the area of things, of happenings, of I don't know, like in COVID, yeah, the COVID times were exceptional for this, or a very good example for this. If you're always looking on news on where's the infection rate right now, on what are politics doing, these are things you cannot influence, but you're focusing with your brain on that. You get the feeling of you cannot do anything. You are a victim to what's happening. You're a feeling of, am I able to respond to this shrinks? And you're feeling, you will feel definitely more fear, and you will less try to do something and stay at home, and so really will be reduced to victim status. So the other approach to life, and this is the one I'm working on with my coaches all of the time, is that you focus on what is in your circle of influence. So means what are the things where you can be effective, where you can do something, where you can make a difference. And in COVID, we've seen that many people stayed at home, rearranged their rooms, try to, I don't know, take care of their garden. So things where they could do something. And the more you look into this and you focus on this with your brain, the more you experience yourself as being active, as being powerful, as being capable of doing things. And this is leveling up your self-value, your self-understanding, your self-esteem as well, and will bring you in a different position. You're not any longer the victim, but you're a creator of your world. And this is basically what we want to achieve in coaching, so that you really get out of this like, oh, I'm a victim of everything which is happening around us, and getting into this creator status. And by the way, living your essence means always that you need to be in a creative creator status, because if you're a victim, you won't never be able to follow your essence. Yeah. So I will look that up. I will bring it in the show notes.
I
think
actually
it's
already
maybe a
just looked
question
it
of
up.
age.
It's Stephen Covey, Seven
Stephen Covey, yeah.
Habits of Highly
Seven
Effective
Habits.
People,
Yeah.
the author.
I had John in mind, but John is you.
Yeah. I also write books, but not
Stephen
on
Covey,
that topic
yeah.
yet.
Yeah, Circle of
Maybe
Influence.
I write a
One
children's
of the
book.
most important models for me. It comes along with that.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing that. I find it extremely important, as I mentioned, especially in these times and when people just open their smartphones and look at social media. I at least feel
Doom
completely
scrolling, yeah.
flooded, doom
Yeah.
scrolling by all the
Yeah.
terrible stuff that's
The
happening.
worst you can do, yeah.
The worst you can do. If you want to bring yourself in a fight, flight, and freeze response as fast as possible, just open Instagram or the news, and 10 minutes
Yeah.
later, here you go.
Yeah.
And I also enjoyed hearing these like very practical examples that you just shared, like from COVID times, people going out, rearranging their room, doing something in their garden. And I was wondering if you have some practical tips, for example, or practices that people can do in regards to living their purpose, living their essence. If there's
Yeah.
someone listening and saying, okay, maybe I want to do a purpose coaching over a full year one day, but I actually want to do something right now. What could be
Right now.
practical tips that you could share?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to share one of the exercises that are part of this preparational weeks to the purpose coaching. And the exercise is called Purpose Daily. And the thing is, I don't know whether you have a diary or something like that. You just need something where you can write down something. And every evening, you make a little reflection about your day and ask yourself, okay, this day, when, in what moment, with what activity did I feel really doing something which was important for me, which transported a certain importance, a purpose, yeah, where I maybe came into a flow state or so. These special moments, that's what you need to note down. And this is not, it's not difficult, yeah, it's just you need some 2 to 5 minutes maybe. It's not a long time. You need to do this every evening. And you do it over a month or two. And then you have a look again at all your notes and try to find the pattern. And that's one of the most important exercises I can recommend at that point, because you will find a pattern and it will give you a straight indication what you need to do more. in order to have this kind of feeling, in order to have this kind of being valuable and following what you're meant to be. So that's a very, very easy exercise you can easily do. And yeah, so I can only say that with all the purpose coaching I've had so far, this is one of the most effective exercises you can do for yourself.
Sounds like a very good practice, this daily
Very
reflection, and
easy,
then just
really
like
very
just
easy.
very simple, straightforward, just writing down and finding
Yeah.
finding the pattern and your own answer in that. And I was also actually wondering, you being also in the role of a mother, maybe
Yeah.
there's some parents listening right now and have this like this sensation of, wow, I really want that my kids can live their essence and their
Oh, yeah.
purpose. And I can imagine that this brings up some challenges and tensions or
Oh, yes.
questions. What are your thoughts, being a purpose coach and a mother, on this topic?
Yeah. First of all, it doesn't help that you have a coaching profession if you're parents. Second, every child is different. So my elder son was 11 years old when we were sitting on his bed, and he really asked me he really asked me, Mommy, why I am living? What's my purpose in life? That was really the question he asked me.
Wow.
And he's still struggling to find this. Yeah, so there are some first ideas, and you can see some, and maybe this is a recommendation I can give. Really, just observe your children, observe what they're doing when they're little. Yeah, when they're still young. And write this down. I have a diary from the first 10 to 12 years from both of my children, and this is very valuable today. Yeah, you don't need to do notes every day, but once in a while, and to memorize the big development steps. So, and just observe and try to avoid to develop your own story of this. Try to develop to avoid to try to avoid to develop imaginations or pictures of what your child could become one day. Because I mean, we all have to know one thing: lots of jobs who existed in the past won't exist in the future. So the bigger part of the jobs that my children might be able to do don't exist yet. So I don't have the slightest clue what kind of profession they will follow one day, first of all. Second, there are statistics saying that the people who are entering jobs right now, that maybe have the age of 18, will change jobs on the average 11 times. So this is completely different from what we've used to do in the past. And they will also on average reinvent their whole career 2 to 3 times. So really break completely with what they did for a certain period of time in their life and then recreate themselves. So this kind of broken career, which we tried to avoid in the past, will be normal in future. So I think the biggest challenge for me as a mother, especially in these times when they are teenagers and they are trying to find their own ways, and sometimes it's really like, oh, you see that they're really like running into a stone wall, like at full speed, and you cannot do anything because it's their experience. I cannot prevent them from having their experiences. Yeah, this is the biggest challenge. And just to provide like the frame for the picture, so there's a frame that needs to be offered, a certain stability, a basic love, a basic acceptance of I'm accepting you, who you are and how you are. But at the same time, it's like you need to offer this frame that doesn't mean necessarily that there are no limits. Yeah. For example, we have they have to do some chores here. Yeah, they have to work here in the household. They have to do there are some things they need to do, and if not, that has consequences. Yeah. But I think over time, and I'm not yet sure whether my recipe will work, but it's more about being there and getting into more a coaching and accompanying and a consultant position over the time. When they're small, when they're young, you need to be there full time. That's completely different. But the moment they start to think about what could I choose as a profession, what could I do as education or studies or whatever, there your job starts to become more like a consultant, and you offer your advice when you're asked to do it and not before. If not, if you're not doing like that, it's very embarrassing for both parts. And you're losing connection, by the way. That's my experience, at least.
Thank you for sharing this perspective. I feel it. Yeah, your deep care in this, like your deep care for your
Yeah,
children, the way how you speak about it. And I also hear between the lines, at least from on my side, this question of how can I be at greatest service for their development? And
yeah,
sometimes it's this role, sometimes it's that role, depending on the context. So yeah, I just deeply appreciate listening to that, and I really
yeah.
hope that
Yeah,
yeah.
and also not forgetting yourself. I mean, no, also taking care for yourself. There are limits to everything. And being there for them and taking care for them and being at service, also this has limits. And it needs to have limits, because if it's limitless, it's also not helping. Yeah.
Do you want to share like one tiny practice, how you practice your self-care? Like also from mother to maybe other parents out there who are listening, like, yes, I really enjoy what Julia's saying, and maybe I could practice more self-care.
Um, I think part of it is really a self-awareness, which you need to develop in order to understand when you need to break, when you need some refreshing meals or drinks or whatever, so that in order to feel when you need a pause, and in order to feel and understand your needs. This is something one should train. And my entrance to this whole, it all started with yoga. At that, I have to say, really like 20 years ago. That was already before children. But this was for me the entrance to, okay, to feel myself better, to have this kind of self-awareness. There are different ways to develop this, but to understand how to get in good contact with yourself, this is important. And in everyday on an everyday level, on an everyday perspective, routines are helping a lot. So, like having a moment for mine in the bathroom, or having the afternoon. I always am walking the dog. I'm always going out with her for half an hour, an hour. So, I try to make a little break at in the middle of the day. Having the luxury situation that I'm working at home, I really can use the sofa for a little break. So yeah, that's helping a lot. Um, Going out with friends, you're not only a mother. Yeah, you have a different life. There are friends. There have been times when the children were small, then it's difficult. When they're really dependent on you, it's difficult to cut out these time frames. That's for sure. And it was a tough period. I can remember myself being always tired and exhausted, and yeah, it's like that. And it doesn't need to have like that, especially when you're having family and help around, which we didn't have at the time. So we've been here in our city without family, and yeah, but also there you can arrange for help, and then you need to overcome this idea of, I have to do it all by myself, I have to do it perfectly well, I need to be the perfect mother. I mean, no mother's perfect. This whole perfectionism thing doesn't help. So when too perfect, God is angry. I've learned. It's an old Asian saying.
I love that saying. Beautiful. Wow. When too perfect, God is angry. Asian saying. Okay, amazing. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for sharing that perspective as well. I can sense that our conversation slowly is coming to a close, and therefore I wanted to offer one opportunity now. If there's anything where you feel like, I really want to share this. If someone listens to this episode in half a year, for example, and you're
Yeah.
like, there's something on my heart that I would like to share, or would let them know either about you or whatever is present with you, this is the moment to share if there's something.
I think if you are listening to this podcast right now, and we don't know to this podcast episode right now, and we don't know how future will look like. I mean, you've said within half a year or so, or within a year, or within 5 years, whenever people will hear that. Um, maybe, and you will live then already in the future from now, yeah? So maybe it's just like these thoughts from the past that will arrive at your ear in future. And maybe this is what it's all about when we're living our essence, that we are the ancestors of the future. So whatever comes from the past will have an effect in the future. And therefore, it's highly interesting and important and needed also for a good future that everybody of us gives right now the best we can do. And if that means offering a podcast like John, or like I myself, I'm authoring this podcast, Next Level Leadership. If this is part of the work, great. If it's something different, great. Just do it. I think that's it. And then you can shape the future by doing it now. And I think that's the joyful aspect and also fun bringing aspect of living your essence in the here and now.
Thank you, Julia, so much for sharing that. And thanks for being a guest here on this podcast. I also really enjoyed being a guest on your podcast. I can recommend everyone to listen also to what it is that you do, Next Level Leadership, in German, mostly, I think.
Yes,
And,
I'm sorry.
And also check out what Julia does. I'm going to post everything in the description of the podcast episode. Thank you so much again that you were here, and everyone who is listening, looking forward to connecting with you in the next episode of Essence.
Thank you for having me, John. Thank you.